Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. It's episode 250, and this one is called Adriana Carrig. This podcast is sponsored by Receptiva DX. Receptiva DX is a powerful test that has helped thousands of women who have experienced recurrent pregnancy loss or IVF failure. The test helps detect inflammatory conditions of the uterus that might be preventing you from becoming pregnant or staying pregnant. The most common underlying condition of a positive Receptiva DX test is endometriosis with or without symptoms. If you or someone you know has struggled with IVF, Receptiva DX may give you the answer and treatment protocols that you're looking for. Talk with your doctor about Receptiva DX because the journey is so worth it. Plus, guys, Infertile AF listeners are getting $75 off the Receptiva DX test. So all you have to do is go to receptivadx.com or download the app Receptiva DX, use code INFERTILEAF23, and you'll get $75 off. Thanks, Receptiva DX. Today's episode is sponsored by Smoo. Life is busy and keeping up with all of your daily vitamins can be exhausting. Smoo is here to simplify your health routine. Smoo's best-selling hormone balance powder is formulated with 7 essential vitamins, minerals, and herbs that are highly recommended for hormone balance, fertility, and PCOS. And guys, guess what? Now is the perfect time to give it a try with an exclusive early Black Friday offer just for Infertile AF podcast listeners. Go to thesmooco.com, that's THESMOOCO.com, and enjoy a generous 20% off site-wide using the code INFERTILEAF at checkout. Again, that's THESMOOCO.com, thesmooco.com, and enjoy 20% off with the code INFERTILEAF. Take a step towards a healthier, more balanced you today and try Smoo. Thanks, Smoo. This episode is sponsored by Berry Fertility. Guys, as we all know, starting your fertility journey can be a big and deeply personal moment, but that doesn't mean you have to go it alone. Introducing the Berry Fertility app, a free way to manage your fertility treatments, including egg freezing, IVF, and embryo transfers, all in one place. The Berry app does a ton of things. It can help you understand the stages of your treatment, look up information about your medications, and set reminders for your doses and appointments. You'll also find simple to follow injection videos, tutorials, and articles with pro tips on how to manage your injections. Oh my God, this is something I so wish I had when I was going through it. The Berry team is always available to provide support and answer your questions. It's 100% free to use, and you can find it in the Apple App Store. Try Berry Fertility, the trusted partner for every fertility journey. Thanks, Berry. Oh my God, you guys, when I launched this podcast in March 2019, I never thought we'd make it to 250 episodes, but here we are, and it literally has gone by in the blink of an eye. I have talked to some of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life, and there's one more happening today. So welcome to my guest, Adriana Carrig. She is the founder of Little Words Project, which you guys all know as the OG Words bracelets. They were just featured on MTV. Lance Bass gave some friendship bracelets that were made by Little Words to none other than Taylor Swift. And you guys are going to hear all about that and how that happened. But we're also going to talk about Adriana's family building journey and her infertility story and her IVF journey, her NICU journey, and a whole bunch of other things. So it's a great episode. I'm so happy to celebrate this milestone with her. And you guys go check out Little Words Project if you haven't already. I'm obsessed with them. We actually just gave a whole bunch of them to our Fertility Rally speakers from our last Fertility Rally live event. So without further ado, this is Adriana's infertility story. Okay, Adriana, hi. It's so good to talk to you. Thanks for doing this.
Hi, Allie. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm excited to chat.
Me too. I was just showing you my Little Words Project bling. I have Squad, Badass, and Fearless, which are part of my summer stack, I guess fall stack now.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's October.
But we're going to talk about Little Words Project, of course, but I want to start with your infertility journey and your family building journey. And my first question is always, did you always want to be a mom?
Yes. Yeah. Resounding yes. It was my dream more than any other dream I've ever had, was to be a mom and, just have all those incredible family moments. I always wanted a family for sure.
Okay. So what did you know about fertility and having babies growing up? Like, what was your sex education like?
I knew that or my sex education, twofold.
Or lack thereof, right?
The lack thereof. Well, on the one hand, what I understood was if you have sex, you get pregnant. Like that's just what I understood. My mom is a Mexican woman. She came here when she was 18 years old, and she was always drilling into my head just do not have sex. Like just don't do it because you will get pregnant. And if you get pregnant, she would tell me, she'd force me to have the baby, and then she would raise it herself. She'd take me out and raise it herself. Like she kind of instilled a little bit of fear in me around that, which I think definitely led to, I was always very afraid. Like even through college, when I was having sex, and for whatever reason, I wasn't getting my period for years. I didn't get my period. I was on birth control, wasn't getting my period, and I was not understanding why. I had no idea. And so every month in college, I would literally take a pregnancy test in the same stall, in the same bathroom.
Oh my God.
Dating my current husband, right? And I was so afraid that I would be pregnant because I just, understood that's kind of what it was. And obviously you're practicing safe sex and all that stuff. But at the same time, you just believe that pregnancy happens like this. And I think that's because of both sex ed that I understood growing up, my mom, and lo and behold, that is not necessarily the case. And was
who knew?
The case for me. Yep. Right. Who knew? I could have saved a lot of money on pregnancy tests.
Oh my God, seriously.
But yeah, I always felt like I had very limited understanding of, like I knew that there was like a point in the cycle that you could be more fertile, but I had no idea how to track fertility. I had no idea about, like the concept of basal body temperature. I had no idea about, the fact that birth control, what it could do to your body long term. There was a lot of holes around all of that.
So what was going on with your period? Did you ever figure it out? Was it endometriosis or
No, not endometriosis. I never and did all the tests kind of during all the infertility journey to find out, with the exception of the surgery to actually determine, but I don't have it. And I believe it was just birth control. My doctor at the time, I would tell her I am not getting my period. And she didn't really raise any flags. She was like, oh, that's normal. You've been on birth control for so long, the lining's really thin and Obviously that's not normal. A woman should be getting her period every month. And the fact that I was on any sort of pill that could prevent me from getting that is half the problem. But, long story short, I still to this day don't know any answer outside of the pill.
Okay. How did you meet your husband? Were you guys in college?
Yeah, we met in college. He lived on the floor above me, and we were best friends first for about a year and a half, and then, kind of fell for each other and have been dating pretty much ever since. And, here we are. My gosh, we're celebrating 6 years married this year and 18 together.
Okay. Amazing. So at what point did you start talking about family building and what you wanted your family to look like?
Honestly, very early on, we would talk about when we were dating, and we would superfluously talk about being parents and having kids and what we wanted our kids to look like in college, but we were clear, we didn't know if we were going to end up married or any of that. But I remember I used to pray at night. I would pray that I could marry Bill. Please, Lord, let me marry Bill Carrig and let me have, a beautiful family with children and have no problem. I used to actually be afraid for whatever reason that I would have trouble getting pregnant. So that, I think maybe played a little bit into my then later inability to get pregnant. I do believe in the power of the mind a lot. The mind and its impact on, your fertility in your body. And yeah, it was for whatever reason, it was a big fear of mine that I just held on to.
It's so funny. That seems to be a common theme in a lot of people I talk to on the show, that they were I had a feeling it was going to be hard for me. Just it was a gut. I don't know if it's a
Is it
female
gut?
intuition or gut
Yeah.
feeling or
Yep.
self-fulfilling prophecy or all of the above, all
Yep.
that?
I think probably all of the above.
Right. So fast forwarding a bit, what happened after you guys got married and you started to try?
Yeah. So we got married in 2017. We started to try in September of 2018. So about a year later. And it wasn't until April of 2021 that I ended up delivering my first baby. So it was about a 2-year trial period of just, having sex and not getting pregnant. At first it was, more casual. We were like, all right, whatever, it's no big deal. And I'm trying to like really not allow my fears to take over. But then around 6 months of trying, I started getting really nervous, really, like I was like, okay, I want to look into this. Through that journey, I was doing a lot of research about, infertility in general and the foods that we consume and the products that we use and just the endocrine disruptors that exist in everything that we touch in this country, especially. I really started to clean up my act. I cleaned up my diet. I threw out like all of my makeup and hair care product and skincare products that, were not good for me. And I do look back kind of, and I'm grateful for that experience because I've kept that energy, I guess you could say, throughout the past few years. And I'm still a quote, clean person. When it comes to my beauty and food and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a tough 2 years. And then it started being, I did all the ovulation sticks. I was all of I was taking a pregnancy test every month and I would get hopeful and then heartbroken and then hopeful and then heartbroken.
Totally. That roller coaster.
Oh my gosh. It was truly one of the harder, 2019, 2020, for many reasons, were some of the hardest years of my life, for sure.
Tell me about doing that research and making all those lifestyle changes. I'd love to like unpack that a little bit more. Were you surprised at how many things can affect, hormones and fertility and like just everyday stuff?
I was so surprised. And I was more so surprised at how I had never known this. Like, why did I not hear about this? Why wasn't this taught to me in sex ed? Like, why wasn't I aware that even perfume can affect the hormones of a woman's body? Like, I had no idea. Like, I was like, any smell. I mean, smelling a candle can affect your hormones. Like, it's such a crazy reality. Like, I'm very sensitive to smell. I cut out all perfumes, anything that has any scent to it. I'm very sensitive. If it's not clean, like my head hurts. Like I can tell now because once you cut it out.
Yeah.
If I smell like a soy wax, I'm like immediately my head hurts.
Wow.
So I moved everything to coconut. I'm very, very like conscientious of that. And yeah, I was very surprised.
What about food and stuff like that and other lifestyle changes? Like, was there anything else specifically that you did that, you didn't think that you would have had to do?
Well, I moved completely to organic for starters. Okay. I was shocked at how this country consumes pesticides in every bite that they take without realizing it. And like the quality of our dirt. I mean, there was so much that shocked me to my core. I actually, it was Goop. It was Goop's podcast, believe it or not, where I learned most of this. And I
think I listened to the same episode. Yes.
I came across I think it was Zach Bush. I came across some of the most like insightful doctors and people who have gone from real medical doctors or MDs, traditional MDs, I should say, over to functional medicine and the naturopath way, and like started to learn so much about like the gut body connection. Like all of your health exists in your gut. And if you're not taking care of what you're putting in your body, that's going to affect everything. It's going to affect your whole system. So I moved to completely organic, which was an expensive decision, which is also unfortunate. But it definitely led to a better overall feeling in my body. And I think it did help later, fast forward to, my second child actually ended up being that story of, so my first was IVF and my second was that story of, oops, you got pregnant out of the clear blue sky the one time you had sex that month. And now, you have to question all of why this happened to you in the first place. But I digress.
Totally. Yes.
But I do think it's the lifestyle changes that I made and I was in a better headspace.
Yeah. Was your husband doing that as well? Like, did he come on board and make those changes too?
He did. I will say, you know, we also both work together. I'm the CEO of my jewelry company, Little Words Project, and he's the COO and president. So the two of us are very stressed. I'm a little bit more disciplined on how I eat and how I take care of my, like what I put into my body. He's more disciplined in how he works out and takes care of himself in that way. So we're kind of, we're balancing the scale, but we did the best that we could to clean up our acts.
Okay. I'd love to ask, if you don't mind talking about it, just the effect of, you know, not being able to get pregnant on your relationship. You know, I've been really open about the fact that my husband and I went through some really, really, really dark times and, you know, secondary infertility. And he was kind of like, we're good. Like, why are we going through, you know, we have our daughter, not that he didn't want another kid, but at a certain point, it was like, why are we doing this? I get it, but that wasn't my headspace at all. So we were just like at odds. I mean, at one point I was like, are we going to make it? Like, I wasn't sure, you know? So I think it's important to talk about that stuff. And if you're willing, I'd love to hear how you guys were you on the same page? Were there some dark moments or hard moments?
Of course. No, we were on the same page. I will say the first 6 months, I think, like I remember I was desperate to get pregnant the whole time. And I remember there was a point after like month 6 that we got the negative test that he was like, I really wanted it this time. And I remember hearing that and being like, what? Where the fuck have you been? I wanted it the whole 6 months. Like,
this time.
This is the first time you like thought. So I remember I got so like mad at that. But then once he kind of clued into like that feeling, like there were plenty of moments where like we'd both be crying that it wasn't positive. Like we were both struggling going through it. He's an incredible partner and he really, really had my back through the whole journey. And, you know, we went through the IVF portion during the height of COVID. So like my husband wasn't even in the room when I conceived Ford, you know, like he was there when we put did the implantation.
Right.
So yeah, it was a struggle, but I think more than anything, it affected our intimacy relationship after the fact. Like, and that's still something that we haven't, like, not that we haven't gotten it back, because like when we get the chance, like we do, and it's great, but it's not as prioritized because we spent 2 full years, like in many respects, having sex every day, every other day, and like
it becomes a chore.
It's not fun anymore.
No, it's not fun. Like, the sexiness is taken out of it. Like 100%. Yeah.
So it's hard. And it was a lot.
So tell me about when you did go down the road of, you know, going to see a specialist. How did you find like an RE or an REI? And what happened? What did they tell you? And was it like IVF right away?
Yes. So I went down, I honestly, I was the most excited about that part. Like I felt better when I started working. I went to RMA in New Jersey. I felt better when I started working with them because I was like, I feel like I'm moving the needle, you know, no pun intended, but I felt like something was actually something was being done. And there was nothing nothing I hated more than just the futility of feeling like I was just going to do the same thing and expect a different result. It felt insane. So once I started working with them and we got his sperm tested, I felt good about like cleaning up my diet. Cause again, I felt like it was something I could control. And then, you know, once I started the testing and we were finding out that there was no explanation, right? Like I'm completely unexplained. I was both like frustrated by that, but also happy, I guess. Cause on the one hand, it's like, great, I don't have like a bigger underlying problem, but then like, why isn't this happening then? Like, I don't understand. So it was kind of double, you know, there was like a double-edged sword there as far as I felt. But the experience of then choosing to go right to IVF was because we didn't have, our insurance didn't require that we do any rounds of IUI. So that allowed us to go right to IVF. And because it was an unexplained diagnosis, my doctor and I both, I was willing. I was like, fuck it. Why am I going to hold out and do this thing that may or may not work? And the likelihood is so much less than just going kind of full bore with it. So we decided to just kind of dive right into IVF, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did it go once you guys started? And what did you know about IVF? Like, did you know that it wasn't a guarantee, that it isn't a guarantee. Just going back to my own experience, like I thought IVF was for like people that wanted to have multiples. Like I thought it was a choice. I can't explain to you how clueless I was about it, 10 years ago.
Yeah. I honestly, I think I had the opposite opinion about it or thought about it, which was that it was a guarantee. Like that's how my head went. I was like, I don't even want to bother like going IUI. I'm like, I'm going to go IVF. I'm going to get pregnant.
Yes.
And then going through the process and like doing more research on IVF, I realized, oh, wow, this doesn't happen for everybody. And that gave me even like more anxiety. So I tried to balance when I was in it. I really tried to balance how much I learned or where I found my resources, right? Like I never, ever, ever went onto a Facebook group, any of the online forums, Reddit, any of that shit. Because honestly, like as much as there is power in community and comfort in like, people coming together and talking about
like the hive mind,
that is great. Maybe in another world, but like I honestly don't do it for anything motherhood now either, because I feel like everyone else's personal experiences and personal perceptions they'll weigh on you, whereas if you just look at, if you choose to kind of take in what you want to take in and then allow yourself to believe what you then believe as a result, I think it's a better experience, or at least it, for me, felt like another thing I could control, right? Yes. Rather than taking on someone's personal experience and ending up believing it was going to be mine.
Totally.
And I really do believe in the power of your mind and the power of, if you believe it, it can be true. And I think that's something that I had to like recognize. And I look at that in my own life and my own business. I believe that I created something out of nothing. Because I believed in myself and in this business, I've been able to create something into something very, large. And why wouldn't that same level of like kind of manifestation, if you will, be applied to my family life and what and almost to the negative. If I believed so wholeheartedly, I could be something great in business and I did, then why wouldn't my belief that I wasn't going to get pregnant also result in me not getting pregnant? If that makes sense. Like I had to like,
where was Little Words Project at this point in your journey? Like it had already started, right? And like it was like off the ground, but like obviously not where it is today.
Yes, I started Little Words Project in 2013 out of my parents' basement. So
I love that.
Early stages, I was just dating my now husband at the time. And it wasn't until 2018, so about 5 years in, that we started trying to get pregnant. And it was definitely on the up, and it was like, we were already doing, millions in revenue, but it wasn't nearly what it is today. And I sometimes credit to the negative Little Words Project with the bout of infertility, because I was, not taking care of myself. I was handling at both ends. I wasn't practicing good sleep hygiene. I wasn't eating well. I was a total, like, I was working for the business, you know what I mean? Not at all for myself. So once I made that mental shift and that lifestyle shift and kind of went the route of IVF, it taught me so much about, letting go of control, recognizing that you cannot do everything and everything will not come to you the second you want it. And it really, like, I think the children journey has taught me more lessons than I could ever have learned anywhere else. So that answers your question.
Yeah, totally. So I want to go back to the IVF journey part of it. How many rounds did you do, or was it one with Ford? And tell me about like that leading up to having him and becoming pregnant. Guy.
Yeah. So I was very blessed to have to only do one transfer, but I did do two retrievals. So my first round, I believe it was menopur. I always mess that up.
Yeah.
It was the Gonal pen.
The pen.
The pen.
The clicky. Yeah.
We messed up.
I just got like a literal like PTSD.
I know,
like,
it is PTSD. I messed up that pen that first round. It was like a $15,000 fuck up
Oh
because
my God, what happened?
time we weren't pushing it all the way down to the point where it goes to zero. We weren't doing that. We were just pushing it to the top and not all the way in. Anyway, if you've used that pen, you might know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it resulted in we did not get. We got 10 embryo. We got 10 eggs out of that situation, and then only 2 at the end, which was good. They were 2 viable embryos, but they were 2 boys, which again, beautiful thing, wonderful thing. I now have 2 boys. But at the time I was like, if I'm doing this and I'm going to do this whole story and I might not be able to get pregnant later and I don't know what's going to happen, whatever, I want to have the opportunity to have maybe a girl at some point. So we decided to go for a second retrieval round so that we could eventually have that girl.
Yeah, I totally get it.
And that's kind of how it went. And we had to pay out of pocket for that second round. But I wanted to do the second round then. I didn't want to do a transfer, then a retrieval if I could avoid that. So
yeah,
again, it's that feeling of like, you can't control any of this. So you sometimes like the type A woman who's going through this wants to control something. So I'm like, well, if I have to go through this, I at least want to be able to know that I can have the family that like I would have been able to naturally try for if I could. So
yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Second time around, we did it right. And we ended up getting 23 eggs and now have like something like, I think we have 10 embryos or something ridiculous left over that I'm like, I don't know if I can have another kid. Now that I've had 2, it's like, oh boy, it's
right. Exactly. But tell me about the transfer and, you said it was mid-COVID with your first.
Yeah.
So that was, adding another layer of anxiety and just,
it was
complications.
A whole layer. I, did the whole thing, masked up. I went in there. My husband wasn't able to join. He was in the car on FaceTime for the transfer itself. I had, I did the put in the healthiest one. Whatever you think looks the best. And it was the best moment of my entire life to this day. I've never been happier. And, I think one of the lessons that I learned through all of this is that, you really cannot connect the dots looking forward. Like it's very hard for you to understand why things are happening when they're happening. But if you just kind of have the trust that at some point it will make sense, it makes everything that you're in feel a little bit more tolerable, right? So as painful as it was to not understand why I wasn't getting pregnant, once I met my son Ford and now that I see him growing up, it means to me like it's just the most incredible thing. Like I understand why I had to go through all that because he was supposed to be my baby.
Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry.
I know.
I love that. It's like, I get it. I wholeheartedly understand what you're saying. And I love that you say you're not able to connect the dots looking forward. That's a really cool way to phrase that. Yeah.
Well, I can't take credit for that quote. It's actually my favorite quote by Steve Jobs.
Okay.
And I reference it all the time. My team makes so much fun of me because it's like, Adriana, get a new trick, but it is true. Pregnant, reality of you cannot connect them looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you just have to keep going and trust that they'll connect in the future.
Right. Oh my God.
It's true for every piece of my life. And it's the thing that gets me through difficulty because I know that yes, I'm going through this now. And even I started my business because I was very badly bullied growing up. And if I had allowed the bullying to overcome me and I didn't, choose later on in life to make something positive of it, then it would have been for nothing. But the point being, I can now look back and understand why I had to go through that so that I could build something major and make it
absolutely
that impacts others. So
yes,
it's been true for every piece of my life that it really helps me through dark times.
Yeah. Can we talk about the second baby?
Yes.
Second kiddo. Tell me about that part of the journey. So you had your beautiful Ford. I love that name, by the way.
Thank you.
And then what?
And then Jet, my other vehicle, comes into the picture. This was around this time last year, that I found out I was pregnant. It was when I tell you, we had sex one time that month. One literal time because,
so awesome.
one, you're over having sex after trying to conceive. Two,
Totally.
you now have a toddler. Three, he was 18 months at the time. I was still breastfeeding.
Yep.
He was still in my bed, still is in my bed. We have a king size bed with 2 babies in it now, and it's crazy. And I need to get them out.
My 8-year-old still comes in the middle of the night, most nights. I get it.
I hope
I actually love it.
I know. I hope for that. I need to I'm looking forward to the initial lay down phase of at least just one night with my husband.
Right. Yeah.
But the point being, there was no time for intimacy for a long time. And so we really would try to squeeze it in once a month if we could. And it was the one time that month that I get pregnant. And I knew because we were setting up our Georgetown store actually. And I felt winded. I felt the same feeling I felt when I was at post transfer, and I thought something was weird. And it's that feeling of the feeling of I'm pregnant, right? And I was the only other time I felt this was when I was pregnant, but it doesn't make sense. And so I finally got to take the pregnancy test, and I finally saw a positive. And what's crazy, and I'll be honest here, is I didn't want to be pregnant. It's so bad to say, but I wasn't ready. I mean,
yeah.
No,
thank you for being honest. Yeah.
It was 5 years. I was okay, we're going to wait 5 years. I'm 5 years between me and my brother, and we have so much happening, and there was so much going on with the business, and Ford is a lot. And the way I've chosen to raise him is hard, and that he's in my bed and on the boobs still. I was still breastfeeding at 18 months.
Yeah.
And we're traveling city to city to open these retail stores and, running this business, and it's fucking hard. And so and it's the fourth quarter, and I'm it's our Super Bowl, basically, for a consumer good brand. And I'm realizing, oh my goodness, I'm going to be pregnant in this hard phase. And I get very sick. I was bedridden for first trimester, bedridden. Okay. Could not get out of bed, had to be, I had to get an IV of fluids at one point.
Oh God. Yes.
So sick. And I just remember feeling God, why are you playing me like this? You first of all, didn't let me get pregnant when I wanted it so badly. And then you're me pregnant when I was I wanted to go put in a girl. It sounds so awful. And I love my babies.
Of course.
I love my boys. Yeah. But you're just you really learn, you are not gonna, you cannot paint this picture as much as you feel like you want to, as much as a control freak you might be. It's not yours to control. And again, I've learned so many lessons through that. But point being, there's a lot of anger that comes along with the feeling of well, why didn't this happen in the first place?
Totally.
Why did I have to pay for my first son to then only end up this happening the one time? It blows your mind. But yeah, I'm always hesitant to say that, especially to an audience of people who are looking to conceive, and are going through it. But I think if we learn anything as women going through infertility, it's that these emotions that you feel you can't control them.
Absolutely.
And I also felt it was the first acknowledgement that I had that maybe I did, in a way, quote, do this to myself in the anxiety that I had and the stress that I was under, and the mental, just believing that it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And my husband actually did say something that really pissed me off in the time too, where he was well, now we know how powerful your brain is. And I was okay, so are you saying that I did and I'm feeling that, and he
totally
kind of said it.
Yeah.
And he of course took it right back. He's no, I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. And I'm no, it's fine. But
it's
I was
interesting.
already feeling guilt.
Right.
But again,
I think
And that's
I'm so glad that you're talking about all this, because it's we're humans, right? I mean, and you can feel that way one day and feel differently the next day, but somebody is listening to this right now who is thank God that Adriana just said that, because I felt that way and I felt like an asshole, or I felt alone, or whatever. So I'm really glad, just normalizing all these conversations and feelings is you can't control how you feel.
Then on the flip side, I remember being in those stories of everybody wants to offer that story up too to you. Like, oh, I had a friend who did IVF and then they got pregnant naturally when they weren't expecting it. Da, 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 da. And it's the most annoying story ever. So that's why like I also hesitate to share it, because it's like, you don't really like, oh, that's so great for them. Like, congratulations to them. Like I'm still currently trying to get pregnant. But I will say that like, it is one of those, like, back to the, like, you don't know why it's happening until it happens. Like I still, to this day, like if I had to do it all over again, knowing that I would get these two boys specifically, I would in a heartbeat.
Yes.
And
yes.
I would go through every emotion as real as they are when they're happening. And, I wouldn't feel guilt about any of it, because ultimately you end up with these kids. And then fast forward, I know this isn't like NICU Warriors podcast, but I gave birth 2 months early to Jet. So I ended up in the NICU for 9 weeks, every single day with that little boy. And it's another question of like, what is happening with my body? Like, why
Absolutely.
can't I get the normal experience? Like I had an emergency C-section with my first. So I'm like, I just want my baby put on my chest. So like the golden hour of breastfeeding or whatever. Like I did not get any of that. And
totally.
I've stopped asking why. I've stopped trying to figure it out. I'm just allowing it to, I'm practicing that muscle, or exercising that muscle of like letting go, letting God or whatever you believe in just dictate how it goes.
Yeah. How did you get through that NICU life? I mean, that is, there are a lot of people who listen to this who've had a NICU experience.
Yeah.
What did you lean on the most, I guess, to kind of get through that?
Honestly, I leaned on the belief and the knowledge that everything will make sense at some your point. Like
Steve Jobs.
Time, I keep Steve Jobs, my guy, but every time as I sit here in a black,
I know, I'm like, I think this is the first Steve Jobs reference we've had on the show. I love it.
Leave it to the entrepreneur. But no, I really, for me, it was, I believe in the power of words, to reference my product. I believe in, I wore believe and hope through the entire journey. I know that every time I'm in some moment, I'm exercising the muscle, and I know that it's just making me stronger for the next life, train that hits me a million miles an hour. Like it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It happened in my entire life. I feel like my entire life, I have been joining clubs that I never wanted to be a part of. Like I never wanted to be a part of the infertility club. Oh, I never wanted to be part of the bullying club. Never wanted to be part of the fertility club. Never wanted to be part of the C-section club, frankly. Never wanted to be part of the NICU club. And like, for some reason, I keep getting tossed these fast pitches. And luckily, I've got a great support system, an incredible partner and husband.
Yeah.
And he helps me see like, yes, but with every difficult journey, you also receive the biggest gifts. And like, I had to go through IVF to get Ford, who is just the most dynamic little boy. I'm obsessed with him,
Yes.
So I feel the same for my baby Jet. And like, I can't wait to see who he grows up into.
Right. How old is Jet now?
He's 6 months.
Oh my God.
Corrected age is 4 months.
Gotcha.
And you want to hear some crazy stuff? My first was born on April 12th.
Okay.
My second, born 2 months early on April 12th.
What?
Born on the date of Ford's birthday. And that's like,
oh my God.
Like,
the universe.
The universe. Every time I just like allow myself to just like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I am provided with this little bit of solace, right? So like 4-12, like, first of all, the birth story is a totally another thing. We'll do another episode on that one. But I went into complete precipitous labor in my bathroom. I almost delivered him on my staircase. I went through transition strapped to a gurney in an ambulance.
Yeah. Wow.
And gave birth 2 minutes after arriving to the hospital, literally 5:58 or 5:53, gave birth at 5:55.
Oh my God. Wow. What a story.
Everything has been a story.
Well, let's talk more about Little Words. As you know, this, it's such a pillar in this community too. Like so many people have these bracelets and pass them around. And I work with SMP. I know you guys do too.
Yep.
They give out your hope bracelets to all of their people, which I think is so cool. SMP, I love them. Hi guys, if you're listening. Anyway, they're awesome. And, tell me about just your role in the infertility and family building community too. Like, how do you get that feedback? I'm sure people all the time are letting you guys know, like, I went into my transfer wearing a hope bracelet or.
Yep. And I will tell you, those are the stories that matter the most to me. The concept of Little Words Project, for those of you who don't know, is each one has a little code on the back of the tag, and that code is unique to that bracelet. And what you'll do is you'll register or connect rather that code to our website, where you put in your story, why you chose the word, what you're going through, maybe how it's helped you already. And then when the opportunity arises to pass it on to someone who needs it more, so in the infertility world, someone else who is going through it, maybe you've had your baby and it got you through, and now you want to pass on that positive power, you pass that on, and then she connects it, and so on and so forth. So you can actually see how your bracelet, supports people through their journeys. Those stories are all visible on our website. So you can go in and see everybody who has connected a bracelet recently, what they're going through. And that's the kind of online community that I love. It's the positive, uplifting, looking towards what the positivity that can happen when you believe in the power of, this little word. So anyway, long story short, when I read those stories, they absolutely, they bring a tear to my eye every single time. And we'll see women who wore their hope bracelet from their transfer all the way through to delivery, and they've got their baby in their arms, and they're sending that picture of the bracelet holding the baby. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's an honor is what it is. It's nothing short of an honor and a privilege to have been even a small part of these women's journeys, knowing how difficult it is. And that same thing goes for every club I'm a part of, right? Like NICU moms were using these bracelets. When I would walk through the NICU getting to my baby's room, and I could see women in there, like doing their pump parts and saving their milk, and they've got stacks on their wrist. And that's before I even, before they knew I was there. The nurses, the doctors, everybody, just the community of people who go through difficulty really, really relish these bracelets. And I am absolutely honored by that.
Absolutely. It's so cool. So tell me, I know you guys have some really exciting things going on with Little Words. What's coming up next?
Yeah. So we've got a couple of things in the works. We actually just launched our refined kind of demi-fine jewelry collection, which is a little bit more of a high-end experience for the customer. I'm actually wearing a few of the pieces now, but aren't they cute? The idea is to layer. Everyone has always been asking me, like, how do you get that look? Like, how do you get that layered look, both, with your bracelet stack, whether it be your rings, your earrings, your necklaces. Like, we have created a small capsule collection that can get you that look. It's an affordable price point, and it's all demi-fine gold vermeil jewelry.
That's Little Layers, right?
That's Little Layers.
So I was just at the Short Hills Mall. Shout out to Jersey. And you guys have it in indigo.
In indigo. We do.
I saw everybody setting it all up, and I was like, I'm going to talk to her tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah. So if you are in the Jersey area and you want to check out Little Layers, you can definitely check out the Short Hills Mall at Indigo. We also have a couple of retailers in Jersey that are carrying it early. But, I think there's that. And then on top of that, we've got retail stores everywhere. We've got stores in the city, in New York, in Miami, in Boston, Tampa. We're opening in Austin, Texas, coming up, and a couple of other locations that I'm so excited about. So more to come there. And
we have to mention the Taylor Swift thing. Talk about that real quick if people don't know.
I know we're having a major moment right now. Little Words
Project. So awesome.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with Taylor, you know that she's kind of got the lyric, "Make the friendship bracelets," and in her most recent album, and everybody is obsessed with it. And all of her like the Swifties make these friendship bracelets now, which for a minute was kind of like, oh no, like, is this going to totally take over our business? Because obviously I've been around for 10 years. We are the original word bracelet that came back to market.
The OG.
The OG. And when Taylor came along, we got a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. But, of all the types of people or of all the celebrities to be associated with, I mean, she is incredible. And she really stands for what we stand for, which is kindness and self-love and, self-belief and all that stuff. So long story short, when, so Lance Bass, we have a relationship with him and his team, which is insane to even say.
Love it.
He reached out to us before her concert. He wanted to bring our bracelets to her concert to hand out because he views us as like the premier friendship bracelet.
Yeah.
So we hooked him up with bracelets for that. And then before the VMAs, he reached out and said, I want to give her a stack of friendship bracelets on stage and I want them to be Little Words Project.
Yes.
So he created a stack for her, like let us know exactly what he wanted. We created a whole stack. We gave her In My Era, Fearless, and Lover. And he handed these bracelets to her, and one that said NSYNC and one that said For the Girl Who Has Everything, which is her favorite song by NSYNC.
Yes.
Which is so cool. So you could see it on stage. If you follow Little Words Project, we have a video of it where they hand it to her, and it's the coolest moment ever. And in that moment, like if Taylor kind of took it from us a little bit, Lance gave it back right then and there. So it was a very cool moment and really has opened a lot of doors for us since then.
So cool. I watched your video like multiple times and you guys were like jumping up and down and I was like, that's so awesome. Just knowing, because as a, entrepreneur myself and a business owner, that's such a huge moment and you've been working at this so hard and so long. So that was really cool.
And it was organic. Like that's the best. Like as entrepreneurs, if anyone's an entrepreneur out there, like, you know that like you could get any kind of press if you're willing to pay for it, but lean and we have never, like, we don't invest in that kind of stuff. We really try to put money into the business back so that we can kind of keep building and get on the wrists of as many people as possible. But this was a totally organic moment that got millions of impressions, and it's really helped put us even more so on the map than we already were, which is
good.
Great.
I love it. Well, before we wrap, I would love for you to just talk to anybody who's listening right now who might be like in the thick of it, having a really hard time, having been through all this yourself. What would you say to somebody who's just like really down and out right now?
I'd say, girl, I feel you. I'm sorry. I know how much this sucks. The roller coaster of it all is just not fun. But, if you can trust in anything, let it be in the knowledge that you will be a mom. Like, I will be a mom. I actually made a bracelet for myself during the journey that said, I will be a mom. Oh. And I know that it's like, if you're struggling to conceive right now and you really, I know the feeling of wanting it to be your DNA, your husband's DNA, your partner's, like you want it to be between the two of you if you're in that kind of relationship, but there are other ways too. And I know that's like, oh, you don't want to hear that. But however, what you do want to hear is like, if you want to be a mother, you will be a mother. And there are many ways that could happen. And all of them are beautiful. And all of them will result in the feeling that you're looking for, which is just that unconditional love. And that's something that, without a shadow of a doubt, I believe to be true. I was lucky, but there are also, you will be too, is kind of how I view it. And it's just having that trust, having that belief, knowing that even if it's not the perfect outcome that you believe in your head, it will make sense one day when you get to meet that baby, that child, whatever you end up doing, and end up with that happy ending. And if that quote happy ending that, again, you believe to be the ending that you want isn't what you get, at some point you will make sense of it. And that will bring you solace and comfort. So yeah, just trust that the dots will connect.
All right, 250, we did it. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to all of my loyal listeners. You guys send the nicest DMs and messages. I'm so glad this is still really helping people. I'm so glad we're still sharing so many diverse stories. So thanks to everybody who's listened to one or all 250 episodes. I also want to thank Adriana Carrig again for being my special guest today. Please check out Fertility Rally, guys. If you're looking for a safe space, if you're looking for somewhere to land, people to connect with, if you're going through this journey, no matter what you're going through, we have somebody that you can connect with for sure. We have almost 500 members across the country and in Canada and in other places of the world. We have 4 to 5 support groups per week, and we are open. So go check us out at fertilityrally.com. You can also always DM me at Fertility Rally or my personal DM, which is Infertile AF Stories. So let us know if you have any questions or if you need anything. And if you're going through something right now, sending you the biggest hug because I know how fucking hard it is. So thanks again. 250. All right, let's go to 250 more. Thanks, guys.